السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وارنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا وتب علينا يا رب العالمين فاغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. We will continue studying the story of the Prophet Sulaiman in the Quran, and we had a long introduction to the subject, especially how we should really see and analyze the stories of the prophets or stories of the previous nations who were mostly those ones who were destroyed or punished because of their resistance against the prophetic message, not necessarily that they didn't accept it, that they were destroyed. They rejected the message to be spread. They prevent the prophet mentioned there. This is another aspect that we should pay attention while we are reading the stories of the messengers mentioned in the Quran. When they start preventing the prophet by either persecution it, where preventing the followers to be together with him, to support him, or trying to send him in exile, in some cases trying to kill him, like in the life of the Prophet Muhammad. We see they intended to kill him. In this case, God decides to destroy them. Again, I need to emphasize on the importance of this point, not because they didn't believe in what the message said, just because they didn't let the messenger, or they didn't want to let the messenger by following many ways to spread their message. This is important for us to pay attention to. We studied the verse from section Anbiya. This is the 21st verse of the Quran. We studied the verse 79, and we said we are going to follow the following verse in the slide 81. Let's start from 81. Yeah. Okay. Let's read the translation. Okay. And to Solomon we subjected the wind, which blew at his command toward the land that had blessed. It is we who have knowledge of everything. Now, we have to pay attention to the wording of the verse, which says, we subjected the wind. To whom? To Solomon. What does it mean? Of course, it has many meanings. The primary meaning, which is well known, is the wind in a miraculous way carried Suleiman to different parts of the land. The land was under his administration, according to the narration, but the Quran does not specify it. But we say, okay, maybe correct, or not. Apart from knowing in principle that the miracles of the prophets mentioned in the Quran, for us, and we keep asking this question, so the wind was subjected to a person who was the prophet, and it is narrated that the wind served Solomon at his command, as he wanted. Okay, I didn't see it, I don't deny, but of course, the prophet, by definition, must be accompanied or supported by miracles. Otherwise, no one would believe in him, because they just start spreading the message and they don't know really the content of the message. Later on, they may, yes, but at the beginning, no. So they need to be supported by the Creator who employed them. This is by definition necessary. Again, I am emphasizing this is by definition of what prophet means, or the messenger of God means. It is necessary. But how about me now? What shall I do with this news? So we have to bear in mind that we are given the example of a prophet. Now, this is what I'm going to apply here as an example to the story of Solomon, but you can apply this to every prophetic, the story of the prophet in the Quran. It is a general principle to apply it. By definition, Solomon is presented to us as the prophet employed by God to spread his message, God's message. So the prophets, by definition, all are for this purpose, to spread God's message. So even if the wind is subjugated to his command, his use, I will understand that not his personal entertainment. This is not for personal enjoyment, just to get on the wind and ask the wind to take me anywhere I want. No, the subject matter is something to the prophet who is employed to convey the message of God. So, wind, a subjugation of the wind, must have something to do with the message of God. So what we see, especially in many examples mentioned in the Quran, wind, or all sorts of winds, but in general, the wind serves as a witness to the claim of the messengers or the message of the messengers. What does it mean? They are the evidence for the truthfulness of the message. So subjugated, God subjected the wind to Solomon, means he used, for me now, at least, I will use it as a means. Solomon used it as a physical miracle. I will use it as an evidential miracle. It means the creation of the wind is so miraculous that I can use it as a witness, as a sign to the correctness, truthfulness of the message of the messengers. I can use it. Particularly to Solomon example means in his context, he used the wind mostly in his message. That is what we understand. But in fact, this interpretation may not be correct, that Solomon used the wind example the most, may not be correct. But this for me is an alternative to bring to bring evidence to the truthfulness of the messengers in general. In our time, we understand, we learn from history and from the heritage of the Islamic tradition. The Prophet Muhammad also was given the evidence of the wind to demonstrate the truthfulness of his message. Look at the wind. It is a witness. It witnesses that, yes, the claim of Tawheed is really correct. Unconscious wind witnesses that all the benefits, the results, they call it nowadays effects of the activity of the wind. Nowadays, they say these effects, these results cannot be attributed to unconscious, powerless, no volition, they have no will to do anything, the wind. We cannot attribute to the air molecules. Impossible for a logical necessity. I cannot say that a stone made my house itself. There's no way to claim this for any reasonable intellectual person, unless someone has a biased understanding. That is his problem. I don't care. But I am open-minded, and I think over what I observe in this world, use it as an evidence for me that air molecules are subject to the order of the universe. They cannot choose anything else other than following the order. That's it. That is my, if you like, a priori conclusion. It means without needing any further evidence, reasoning process, I approve it. So exactly the same way, air molecules cannot have a conscious activities as I see as a result of the creation of the air, wind. So winds are not the source of the results which are created after its activities, which is not in their hand again. The creator makes it. Easy example, if a house which is made of stone, I cannot attribute my house to the stone itself. But I can say the builder, a conscious being with evolution, used two stones to build my house. That is what, as a human being, with no further evidence needed, I can approve it. Now, okay, which blew at his command towards the land. Now, at his command means, however, as a prophet wishes them to use as evidence to the truthfulness of their message. So it acted, it demonstrated the truthfulness of the message. But how about toward the land that we had blessed? Now, it is another interesting point. What is the blessed land represents? If you think of it in terms of this world, a blessed land where a human being receives blessings from the absolute creator. So it means my place in this world, my location in this world, after taking the witnessing of the winds and understanding it, confirming it, I am in a blessed land. Another understanding, which is possible, wherever the message, which is supported by the witnessing of the wind, goes, and the people receives it and confirms it, receive it and confirm it, that land becomes a blessed land. People will be happy with their existence, with their life, and in their social life, personal life, family life, they will be acting according to the way they are created. According to the way that they are created, which is called in the language of the Quran, fitrah. Fatarallahu alayh. As God created us, as our creator created us, it means the machine, if you like, is operating perfectly. Machine is operating perfectly according to the way it is made. The human machine, human is not a machine, but I understand it's just an analogy. The human being works perfectly with no difficulties, no strange crackings and fightings, etc., because it is perfectly working. So this is for a human being a conscious awareness of their happy status of life. So that is happiness. It is we who know, who have knowledge of everything. So God says, look, we know what we are doing. We know what we are saying. We know how we created the universe. We know how we created the human beings. So we understand from this verse that God is telling us he is doing what he knows or knowingly. So he's aware of everything in the past, in the whatever is going to be created in the future. They are all within the absolute knowledge of the Creator. Now, let's come to the following verse. Another, this is from the chapter 17, chapter Naml, which is revealed during the 7th year of the mission in Mecca. So we have to bear in mind that the prophet is really receiving some sort of positive response from innocent people, but obstinate people are rejecting and trying to even impose some sort of boycott on his people, himself and the followers. And they were really thrown away or sent into exile in a land next to Mecca. This is the preparation time now, almost for the time for boycott reaction by the deniers or rejectors of the message, and also they didn't accept the message, but plus they didn't want the prophet to spread his message. So let's see during this period how the story of, which is called the section Nemel, how the story goes as related to the life of the Prophet Solomon. We are specifically studying the story of Solomon. That's why I selected the verses related to the story of the Prophet Sulaiman. So we gave knowledge to David and Solomon, and they both said, "Praise be to God who has favored us over many of his believing servants." It means, what does it mean? Believing servants, yes, everybody believes in God, who are ready to confirm belief in God, but they are saying, well, we are supported by the message. So we are trusted the message, so we are given the ability to grasp the meaning of the message, what is ingrained in it, much better, so that we will be teaching how God taught them, because the message was sent by God, and in this example, the prophets, but in this specific example, David and Solomon, because they are father and the son. In this story, it is made in this way. Does it have to be? No. One prophet, David, and the following prophet, Solomon, Suleiman. We shouldn't really take this kind of narrations literally. After Solomon, after David, Suleiman carried the message. That's what we understand. We will work on it, because in other words, we say that Solomon inherited David. Yeah. For example, I can say to you, we will go into details that this subject is important, because we shouldn't be literalist while we are studying these teachings through the examples of the stories of the prophets. We have to be careful not to confuse it with literal meaning, saying that this is just exactly what it is. So get lost in this historical side of the story, rather than what I am going to benefit from it, how I am going to benefit from it. So the prophet, we have to bear in mind that although in Hadith literature, and also not in a clear language, but hinting, there are quite a number of verses in the Quran hinting that the Prophet Muhammad, all his message, which is called the Quran now in our hand, the Quran is not a completely new thing. What? Encompassing all the previous messages and perfecting it, presenting it to the needs of its own age, its own centuries. Whenever it is, the message will be received as it is now, after more than 14 centuries. So what we are reading here, all the inheritance of the previous messages, previous prophets' messages, we are inheriting in the Quran. So this is important. The following verse will emphasize on it. And Solomon inherited David and said, whatever, we will study there. I think we can combine the beginning of the following verse and the 15. We gave knowledge to David and Solomon. These are the examples of the prophets. And they both said, praise be to God, who has favored us over many of his believing servants. Of course, in their penetrating into the real message that they are conveying, in order to represent the message, they have to have better understanding, deeper understanding of the message. That's what they say. The prophets must have the highest or deepest, the best level of understanding of the message, so that they can be the best example for the ones who are listening to them, who are receiving the message from them. That is what we understand. It is not that a competition is going on here. Look, I'm better than you. My belief is stronger than you. It is irrelevant. A prophet wouldn't need to say this, but drawing our attention, saying that when you listen to us, know that we are given benefit from us as much as possible. By the way, you cannot go beyond our standing, comprehend, learning through your endeavor as much as you strive for the meaning of the message. God blesses you with the result of Iman. So the professor and the students, at that level, the students cannot learn from the prophet more than the prophet teaches you. That's what it is reminded us. Take the prophet. It means this verse is hinting, take the prophet as your example, as your pattern for your life, ideal pattern for your life. So try to follow his presentation of the message, exemplary life, and in their while they are living and presenting the examples. Of course, you will be as much as possible in the best situation, but as a student of the prophets. That is also an advice for us. We have to take the exemplary life of the Prophet Muhammad for us, which is called Sunnah. So can anybody practice the content of the message of the content of the Quran better than the Prophet? This verse says no. It means I am how much I study the Quran, how much I learn, maybe as much as I can, the deeper meaning of the Quran, but I should never forget that I am a student of the Prophet Muhammad. That means whatever my scholarship, level of my scholarship is, regardless of this, I must still be a student of the Prophet Muhammad in our example now. That's what I understood from this verse. I mentioned a little bit about the inheritance of Solomon from David. So inheritance is legitimate. We know that. We inherit the earth, for example. As I come to the world, okay, our base message, but I will read it later on if he doesn't mind. Oh, I made a mistake again. Just a minute. Go back. Now, I will read it later on, not to confuse my presentation, inshallah. So this one. Okay. Now, inheritance is mentioned in the Quran as your right, like your right of birth. You are created as a child, every individual being, child of his or her parents. Now, that is decided by the Creator, not by me. So whatever the property, whatever the culture, whatever the habits and teachings I inherit from my parents, they are my right, appointed, assigned by God. So I can use it, but I should understand that because in terms of matter, in the property, inheritance of property, because I received it with no labor. It means if I work hard, that's what the people, while they are advertising something that they are going to help you financially for this way or another way, how to really benefit or make most of your money, we say, we are really trying to help your hard work, money, property. That's why hard work. We work hard and it is valuable. But when we receive something free, like air, how much we appreciate it? That is a question. Like water, how much we appreciate it? Only there is a drought or a shortage of water, then we say it is very valuable. We have to be careful not to waste it, etc. Otherwise, we just use it and don't really pay attention to it because it is freely, with no human endeavor involved, we receive the air and water, for example. So when we receive something freely, we are we tend to waste it, not appreciate it as much as what we earned by using our labor. That is very important. Why? For example, I look at myself. I found myself created, born into a Muslim family and Muslim atmosphere, Muslim community. Without any effort, I learned a lot from this cultural atmosphere, right, wrong, whatever, but without any effort, especially those people whose parents are knowledgeable about whether a profession or especially as far as our subject is concerned, religion. It means message of the Quran or practices of the Prophet Muhammad as it is practiced in the society. I just readily get it and accept it. And I see that most of the inherited property, culture, etc., most of them are not appreciated because of the familiarity, because we don't value it, because we didn't labor for it, we didn't get it. That's what the people who were born into a Muslim family must be, including myself, very careful about this general religion, especially now, as far as we are concerned, Islamic cultural inheritance. We have to value it. It doesn't mean that everything inherited in the culture is really Islamic or according to the teachings of the Quran and the practices of the Prophet. But whatever we find them, according to the teachings and the practices of the Prophet, teachings of the Quran and the practice of the Prophet, I have to value it as if I earned or I learned them by my own labor struggle. This tendency of not appreciating is very much widely seen in the, especially let's talk about Muslim community, not others in the Muslim community. We took it for granted, that's it, and use it without really valuing it. Okay, that is enough, I think, for inheritance. So Solomon inherited David. What did they inherited in a particular example? Particular example related to the story of Solomon. And people, we have been taught the language of birds, speaking to people. No, all the people, yeah, Nas. We have been taught the language of birds, and we have been given a share of everything. Now, this is clearly a blessing for the Lul. So what does it mean? Particular example is given. That is why Quran gives the prophetic examples as lived, real life examples. The person lived, experienced this. So as a human being, you can apply it to your life as well. Human nature doesn't change. The order of the universe doesn't change. The way God creates doesn't change. Only the variations of the manifestations of the same qualities of God. Qualities of God the same, but variations in the manifestations are changing continuously in order to demonstrate the absoluteness of these qualities, not limitedness of the quality. They are absolute, continuously changing with no hesitation, no difficulties, everywhere at the same time. That is one side of it. But the qualities of the Creator, manifestations of the qualities of the Creator don't change. This is the experience we are having. So the universe is out there as a witness, human beings here as we are, as witnesses, human feelings are also as witnesses to the same truth. So we have been taught, oh people, we have been taught. It means you too have been taught the language of birds are. Why a specific example? As we said, the Quran always prefers to speak in specific terms, not in abstract terms. Description of paradise, description of resurrection, description of hell, description of angels are presented to us in a, if you like, personified forms that we can grasp them, we can imagine them comfortably, comprehend them in these examples. So as the wind was an example, the language of the birds are also examples. Let me go back to the chat box and see the comment of Agabe before it is too late. And we say inheritance, updated message of previous scriptures, which is more appropriate to new centuries. Maybe it doesn't contradict the scriptures aim, which looks our human side, right? Because human side, as a state, never necessitates, never changes as far as I understand. Okay, we discussed this. Thank you. So we have been given a share of everything. Look, and this is clearly a blessing, especially starting from a very obvious example. Everybody sees the birds, experiences the bird. It means it is an invitation for us to look at particularly the life of birds. So Hikmet, your mic is open. Yep, I muted it. Don't worry. It disturbs the recording. So let's come here. The birds is a very particular example. It means focusing on the birds first, and then zooming on the birds, look at the bird, and expand it, all universe-wise. Kulli shay. It means, kulli shay'in, it means have been given a share of everything. It means you can study the life of a bird and then expand it to other animals. They have the same qualities, but in variated manifestations. For example, let's say birds see from above. Yeah, of course. Let's say ants see from below, and bats see at dark. You can extend it, but they are all arranged in such a way that they speak to us about the conscious, deliberate act of their creator, and conveys the message to us in order to be used as evidence for the truthfulness of the message of the prophets. Oh, okay, thank you. It's all right, Hikmet. Yeah, don't worry about it. No. And did you understand this? Verse 16, do you have any problem about it or questions, concerns about it? All right, no comment? All right. Now, verse 17. What we learned before going to the 17th verse, content-wise, it is almost the same, but methodologically, we can use the same method to understand the verse 17 as well. What we understand from it, when the prophets, or originally God, conveys his message to us, it means teaches us what is the purpose of our life, and teaches us what are we expected to do in this world. Why are we here? What is the reason behind our existence here? So these kind of questions are there. And the answer doesn't come from the creator saying that, look, I am your creator, you have to believe me. No. As we have been seeing the wind, the bird, and the witnessing of everything in the creation. So what does it mean? In order to first convince ourselves in our belief in God, in ghaib, that, for example, the existence of the hereafter, existence of the message that the prophets received. I don't know how the message comes to the prophets. Does it really acceptable? Is it really acceptable? Does it make sense to me that a person received a message from God? In order to understand all this kind of belief, elements of belief, articles of belief, principles or pillars of belief, whatever you call it, are ghaibi. not palpable things. But when God presents us in his message, you have to believe that there will be a resurrection, then there will be another type of creation. I don't see it, but I may see evidences. That's why Quran refers human mind, human intellect, human feelings to take the evidences in the creation, in your own feeling, which is also created being. Our feelings are created beings as well by God, by the creator of the universe. We cannot create, nothing else can create my feelings or my intelligence, my consciousness. Nothing can create. So what we have to do here, we have to take the lesson from these kind of verses that in order to confirm, make sure, or in order to reach certainty in my belief in ghaib, all matters related to belief, which are not physically experiencing, physically possible to experience here, for the next creation. I cannot experience it by definition. It is next creation, resurrection. Well, I cannot experience it. After the destroyal of the universe, there will be another creation. Can I really experience it here? I can see the signs, evidences, right? But I cannot really see paradise and hell here as God promises us. For example, the God himself, I cannot see God. By definition, he is absolute. So I cannot really see or observe or comprehend absolute. It's impossible. By definition, it is impossible. But I have the evidences as well. How about revelation? God is speaking to, I can understand the meaning inscribed in the creation are the evidence to God's conveying the knowledge to human mind. How about speech? I have been given the ability to speak, and I have been given the ability to comprehend, and the one who creates me with this ability and speaks through the language of the creation must be able to speak. If he can speak, why not to speak to human beings through messages, sending messages, demonstrating that I know what I am doing and I can express what is behind, explain to you what is behind the meaning of this material word, exactly pointing to, I can learn from them as well. So I understand that the one who creates is able to speak and must speak, and I must receive his message in order to have the answers to my human questions, which are not to be found in this world, in this universe. So giving the examples from the material world is the main principles of all the prophetic messages. Here we are narrated about Solomon and David, and also here we are in the Quran in front of us, in our hands, we can read and see. Now, coming to the famous army, Junud of Solomon. What is that? Solomon's hosts of jinn. Host means really the translation of Junud, because the translator was very careful, don't understand like this American army or some another army of another country, not like that at all. This is a prophetic army. What do you think a prophet is? Is a prophet in order to convey the message to me, not his personal ideas, personal preferences, personal power on earth. cannot be the prophet. Could be a king, only not the prophet. But prophets are presented in the Quran, as we mentioned in the introduction to this section, representing different phases of life, different phases of life, different features of life, so that I can find myself in sometimes in one example, in an example of one prophet, another time in an example of another prophet. For example, as a child, I must put myself in the shoes of Yusuf, Joseph. And as a father, I must put myself in the shoes of Jacob, Jacob, or Noah, Nuh. So as a husband, again, I must put myself in the shoes of another. As a wife, again, I must see myself as an, for example, leader or the head of the family, again, or as a ruler of an institution, maybe a small community, maybe a family life, maybe a country in general. I must put myself in the shoes of David and Solomon, examples, while I am in this position. But when I go home and go to my private house, I am not a king now. I am the husband, I am the father, I am the head of the family, etc., etc. A person who has family responsibilities. So take different types of examples presented in the lives of the prophet, in the narrations of the Quran, and apply it to my practical life. These are different matters. That's why specifically Solomon is mentioned here as a one who owns an army. But this army maybe in practical terms, maybe a physical army, but as far as his messengership is concerned, this army must be the elements, soldiers helping him, supporting him, witnessing his truthfulness of his message. So, hosts of jinn, men, birds, they were marshaled in ordered ranks before him. It means all of them obeyed like the wind, and the birds and the animals, language of the animals, language of ants, for example, in a particular example we will see, they are ordered in ordered ranks before him. It means they all witness to the truthfulness of his message. They are in the service of his message, because we are reading what? The prophet. We are reading an exemplary life of a prophet, not Solomon, but Prophet Solomon as a prophet. As a person, there were billions of people died before me, none of my business. This is presented in the Quran as a best guide, example for me to follow as an employed messenger of God. So I have to understand that his army, as far as his message is concerned, or as far as his messengership is concerned, everything serving to prove or to witness the truthfulness of his message. So jinn, of course, it's a lovely discussion to talk about, I think, stories or whatever comes to your mind. scary things, and those creatures trying to steal the message of God from heavens, and the stars, shooting stars, are bombarding them to go away, as if it's in a scenario which is beautifully described in the Quran. What is going on? Inshallah, the time will come when we study these verses, we will emphasize on the importance of these messages and how they are related to our practical life. But it is an exciting subject for me, but now we shouldn't really go away from our main message today, which is Solomon's story gives us. They are all there. Jinn, is this much we must mention. There are human beings, as the Quran says, hordes of jinn, men, birds, animals, all there. They were physical beings created and observable in this world. But jinn represents something as far as this subject is concerned. Now, very briefly, very roughly, jinn represents the creatures which are not of the nature of physical existence. For example, as an example, I'm saying, my feeling is not a physical substance. My intelligence is not a physical substance. The meaning I extract from the creation is not a physical substance. So there are other creatures. Why not? Because I am the witness to itself. When you look at me, you see my physical body, but also I have lots of, almost infinite number of feelings within me. You don't see it, but I'm sure of them. I'm experiencing it. All human abilities, for example, I'm speaking now, and this ability to speak, the mouth is there, but when I'm died, it is not there. So ability to speak is not there. So something, a particular creatures, not metaphysical, no, non-physical creatures, but creatures, angels and jinn. Angels represent absolute submission to the will of the command of God, and jinn represent with free will, submitting or not submitting, like human beings. For example, dogs, animals, birds submit to the command of God. As they are created, they have to act in this way. They have no other option. But human beings have. Yeah, we damage. We misuse our feelings. We may practice, we may not practice our feelings. We have the choice. So as a counterpart of physical existence, there must be also on the counterpart of physical existence, jinn and angels. Angels represent the absolute submission to the way they are created. It means submission to the will of the creator. Jinns represent to, like human beings, not absolute submission, may not submit to the way they are created, like us. So we have our counterparts, jinns, must be, because this universe is created in a pair. Everything has its own pair, but opposite nature. Opposite nature, women, men. Example, male, female. Example, attraction, repulsion. Example, positive, negative. Example, heavy, light. Example, everything is a pair. So I wonder, for example, the paper of the book, meaning inscribed in the book. Example, pair. Now, material existence and the message in the material existence, the message, the meaning I read in the material existence. Example of created in pair. But how about in another form? For example, absolute obedience. Here in the word we see the immaterial things absolutely obey. Animals, plants absolutely obey the creator, and not absolutely obey by optional obedience of the creator, human free will. So we see the counterparts in the non-physical world as well, because this is the general trend in the order of the universe. There must be so. Do we have to know? We can logically use it. For example, I see the physical existence of the things, but my intelligence sees the counterpart of it, which is non-physical meaning side of it. For example, I see my body, or you see my body, but you don't see my feelings unless I express it. Otherwise, if I stay like this, you don't see which kind of feelings do I have. Even you don't see whether I have life or not. So matter and life, for example, all these are created. Everything, this is the order of the universe, everything is created in pairs. So we have to see physical appearance of creatures and non-physical existence of creatures. And jinn represents one type of like human beings in the creation. That's why in the Quran, Adam and Satan, as it from jinn. So you see, these are all related to this. So angels and Adam, angels completely submitted themselves to the service of Adam. Jinn, which is called in the story of the Quran as in the form of Iblis now, no, didn't. He has the option. So it is an example for me. I have to take care of my reality as a one who has an option in front of me. So free will. So jinn represents the counterpart of physical existence of the ones who have free will. Anyway, the birds, as we discussed before, birds also uses the language of the birds, the meaning they transfer, as far as the message of the Quran is concerned, or the mission of the prophet is concerned. Birds speak and declare that the message is really correct. How? Through their existence. The way they fly, the way they are made, their shape, their behaviors, all their activities, taking care of their children, the young. In amazing language they transfer to us, speak to us. We have to listen to them. We have to learn from them. And they are all at the service of the prophets. In this example, Solomon's army. So Solomon's armies, all of this. Of course, you can say, can I have an army like this? Yeah, if you listen to the message of Solomon, which is narrated to us in the Quran now, which is Solomon's, in Hebrew collection of Torah, or the Hebrew Bible, there is a section, Solomon's hymns, or David's hymns, which are called or narrated in the section Psalms. They are beautiful, really. Although the Quran says the language is changed, etc., but the content is somehow beautiful. You can, if you are interested, and I mentioned it before when I just came to my mind again, it's very important. If you want to read something from the Bible or the Hebrew Bible, collection of 20-something pieces of different types. So they are midrash or lots of things they have. So you can read the Psalms and appreciate that even much before the Quran, the same content of the message was revealed to humankind. So Quran inherited all of them. Inshallah, we will continue from the following section now, 18, 19, inshallah. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm just here intending to, intending to end the discussion, but if you like questions, comments, anything, I'm happy to communicate with you. Not necessarily that I will definitely answer. I may know, I may not know. That's quite normal. If I don't know, I will say I don't know. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Please, if you have anything to say, go ahead. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم